happened in 2008, and I'm still angry about it. I'll probably be angry about it for the rest of my life unless I can talk to somebody about it. So what's got me so worked up that I keep my Rageaholics Anonymous sponsor on speed dial? I'm upset about Knight Rider. No, not that Knight Rider. That Knight Rider was on from 1982 to 1986. They had the chance to tell their stories. They had their moment in the sun. I'm talking about the other Knight Rider. The Knight Rider series reboot, simply entitled Knight Rider, was exactly what fans had been waiting for. You see, ever since Knight Rider had gone off the air, there had been many attempts made to recapture what had made the original series a success. Attempts to reinvent the series included Knight Rider by way of Power Rangers, Knight Rider by way of Mad Max, and one attempt that actually got all the elements right. Knight Rider 2000 is a made-for-TV movie that got it right. You had the Hoff, you had William Daniels playing the voice of a Knight Industries supercar, you had bad guys that needed to be stopped, and of course our heroes were the only ones properly equipped to save the futuristic amalgamation of San Antonio and Corpus Christi. Corpus Christantonio? San Corpus Christantonio? Okay, location scouting aside, this really is a good movie. This film got me excited for what Knight Rider really could be. The Knight Rider universe was expansive enough that you could take new plots, new characters, add them in, and it would work. Plus, it married real-world technology, high-tech stuff with Knight Rider's own brand of super science, and that also really worked. Then, years later, a wonderful thing happened. Hollywood ran out of original ideas. This was the time where old TV shows were being made into movies. Some were an homage to the original source material, some were a parody. By the way, I'm still waiting for my Greatest American Hero movie. Get on that, guys. Come on, seriously. But NBC had a whole handful of television properties that they weren't doing anything with at the time, and they needed something to slap on the air, so they decided to give these old shows a shot. This was about the time when the Bionic Woman reboot happened, I remember. I watched a couple episodes, and it was not that bad compared to other things on NBC. So eventually Knight Rider got its turn, and Knight Rider 2008 was so cool. It delivered on a lot of the promises that the Knight Rider 2000 movie had made. There were suspenseful and intriguing plots, interesting characters, a marriage of high-tech and pseudoscience mumbo-jumbo that really made the show intriguing. As if that weren't enough, the cast was a collection of impossibly beautiful people. Seriously, these are some sexy people. The whole cast is sexy, including the car. In fact, Kit might be the sexiest one here. And why not? When you cast a Shelby GT500 KR as the star of your show, that's instant sex appeal. This time around, though, the voice of Kit was played not by William Daniels, but by Val Kilmer. Wait, Val Kilmer was in a role that I actually liked? That doesn't make sense. Well, Val Kilmer doesn't make sense playing this role at first, but then when you think about it for a second, this is really a role where they had him come in and every single day asked him to give a robotic performance. So, yeah. As much as I love to romanticize the fact that this show existed, it was not without its flaws, and here's where I take a moment and describe some of those flaws to you. One of the biggest problems I had with this series was that Kit had this adjustable armor plating system that allowed him to change on the fly from a Shelby Cobra into any other vehicle in the Ford lineup. No, I'm sorry, I can't hang with that. I really can't. I can't suspend that much disbelief. I can believe that Kit can change his appearance to look like other models of Mustang. I'm willing to believe that Kit has a nanopolymer coating that makes the vehicle nearly indestructible. I'm even willing to believe that he's able to reconfigure into different modes, like attack mode. Attack mode! But as far as turning into other vehicles, no. If you're telling me that a Ford Mustang can transform into a F-250 while transporting people inside of it, and those people aren't crushed or harmed in any way, I have to call BS on that. I didn't believe it when Inspector Gadget's minivan turned into a police car, and I don't believe it here either. If you have a vehicle that's going through an immense transformation, there's a chance that your vehicle will transform, but that it'll also transform its occupants into corpses. Another sticking point in the show for me is Car, Kit's evil twin. Now don't get me wrong, I like Car from the original series. In fact, the episodes that featured Car are some of my favorites from the original series. But in this reality, they took the Car storyline and just really kind of trashed it. The main problem I have with Car is that he even exists in this series. I mean, if this really is truly the future of the original Knight Rider storyline, and not a weird alternate universe retelling of the original story, then why did they even build another car? I mean, don't get me wrong, if it had been handled well, this could have been a really nice piece of fan service, but it was not. So I get why the writers wrote in Car, but why did the characters build him? I mean, what is their motivation? Did they simply just not learn from history and therefore are doomed to repeat it? In any case, it really doesn't matter. It was just handled pretty badly. However, in spite of its flaws, this really is a very good show, which might lead you to say, well, if it's such a good show, then why did it only run for one season? Well, theories abound, but based on my own personal observations, I would say that the show was canceled through no fault of its own. Basically, what it comes down to is the one enemy that Kit and Mike could never defeat was Jay Leno. Jay was host of The Tonight Show, and the show had been promised to Conan O'Brien. The Peacock Network had to be true to its agreement that they had made to give the show to Conan. However, they weren't ready to let Jay Leno go just yet, so they decided to give Jay an early late show that would be the lead-in to Conan's show. All of a sudden, they needed to clear an hour of prime time from every weeknight to make room on the schedule for the new show. This was a massive and sudden change in NBC's lineup. This not only resulted in Knight Rider being taken off the air, but also the cancellation of Law & Order. Come on, guys. Seriously? The death of Jerry Orbach can't stop this show, but the fact that Jay Leno needs a time slot to tell his half-hearted one-liners, that's a priority worth canceling Law & Order? Ultimately, we know how that story ended. Conan left, and Jay resumed the throne as the host of The Tonight Show. But what I could never understand about this whole situation was why, when it was all over, they didn't just simply bring back the shows they had taken off the air. They introduced a whole bunch of new shows. If you told me that a guy who was former special ops and his supercar were killed in a turf war between two talk show hosts, I would never believe it. But that's exactly what happened here, essentially. And NBC has never had the good sense to undo what they did. You know what? Talking about all of this really did make me feel better. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go watch some Knight Rider episodes and pretend it's still 2008, a time when we were all just beginning to laugh at Sarah Palin's politician impression, and the term stimulus package wasn't just a veiled reference to the bottle of Viagra you have in your medicine cabinet. Good times. Good times. No, I'm sorry, I can't hang. Val Kilmer, sorry, I can't hang. The Hoff, sorry, I can't hang. Jay Leno.